With the 165 billion we gave to Ukraine, we could have built 6 border walls to stop illegal immigrants from pouring across our southern border. Could have fixed Flint's water system 215 times over.
Easily.
I like this one. Could have given every homeless vet $2 million.
Holy shit.
Could have given $50 million to every family impacted by the Maui wildfires.
They got $700 each. They think it would take $20 billion to end homelessness in America. $20 billion. We've sent 100 and how much?
165 billion.
So we could have ended homelessness 8 times over in America. It's outrageous.
Outrageous. Welcome everyone to Truth Tuesday, second half. First half's over on Lisa's channel. If you're watching this later, you can go watch that and check it out, catch up with it.
Make everything make more sense.
Yes, so much clarity now. All right, give myself a like. So please hit the like button. Appreciate it. Gosh, there's so much for me to go over. Hey, Warrior, good to see you, Jim.
That's how I felt. I was like, okay, we're going to have to talk really fast to get it all.
I know. So there's a lot of crazy stuff. Did you see the title?
No.
Oh, I couldn't fit all of everything on the title, but Russia had been in a proxy war with Russia for.
Oh, yes, I see it up here. Has France been in a proxy war with Russia for years? Did Hamas attack Israel because of a prophecy? Ooh.
It's pretty woo-woo stuff, but
do
you know about the Red Heifers?
I have been hearing this red heifer term. Now I know the red heifer thing has like a satanic connotation. Like that's what Target did the kids' clothing line and had the red heifer.
Well, I heard about this like weeks ago, just like a little thing, and it was weird. It's also weird because Texas is involved. Okay, now we talked about this on your channel.
Okay.
Number one, you talked about the cicada that happens every 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
So since Moses, that has happened 9 times. From what you're saying, my understanding, it happens every 200 years. This would be the 10th time the locusts plague would hit. And Texas is not part of it, which I thought was very weird from what you showed. So the red heifer, I got some videos that I clipped to explain it. Like I said, I heard about it weeks ago, and now people are starting to talk about it because the mainstream media can hide stuff, but they can't hide stuff forever. The leader of Hamas at the 100-year anniversary of the war came out and said this was like the reason, or one of the main reasons why they attacked Israel. It's because of the freaking cows. So no one reported on that or talks about it. It's been like independent media that has been talking about it, and now it's gotten picked up by like still not mainstream, but like the Blaze. They were talking about some other like you said, you've been hearing about it. Let me go to some of these videos. Also, I have a bit of good news that I think that you'll like. I threw that in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is just a basic explanation. So they have to do this. Jews believe that they do this sacrifice. They have to sacrifice this red heifer. But to talk about the red heifer, since the time of Moses, so since like 70 AD, 2,000 years, over 2,000. They've only done this 9 times because there's only been 9 of these cows born. It's not just a red heifer. It's a red heifer that has to be perfect. It can have no more than, in the research, 2 hairs, 2 black hairs or 2 white hairs, no more than that, or 2 white or black spots, no more than that. It's one or the other. But it can never be yoked. It has to be unblemished, no cuts, no scrapes, nothing. perfect, but it can't even have had someone lean on it. So the qualifications for this to happen are next to impossible. Just to have it born, just to be born is 1 in 50,000. Now, if you over the last 2,000 years, there could be one born, 1 out of 50,000 in the U.S. in the rainforest. There's no way you're going to be able to get it over to the Middle East. No one's going to even know about it for until recently, when we have communications and then boats and so on. But it can't be more than 3 years old. There's so many restrictions that it just hasn't happened. There's only been 9 in 2,000 years that have been sacrificed. Now, on the 10th sacrifice, it is believes that brings in the Messianic age. That then the temple will be rebuilt, the third temple, and once it's built, then the Antichrist can come and defile it. So it's like, but everything talks about once this happens, that's it. The 10th one, temple. This is end times. This is like the biggest sign. But here, let me play this. Just as a quick explainer. And then they have an update.
What is the Red Heifer?
Yo, this is wild. It's written for the temple to be rebuilt. That ushers in the end times. All the tools that they use within the temple need to be cleansed. In order to do that, they sacrifice a red heifer. There's only been 9 red heifers ever sacrificed. The last red heifer to have been sacrificed was 2,000 years ago. A cattle rancher in Texas got invited with these rabbis to go look for red heifer. They found 5. The process was insane. They can never have been yoked. No one could have leaned on them. That's why it's been 2,000 years. They determined we finally found them. These 5 heifers are in Israel right now being protected and guarded. They have 9 months to sacrifice this red heifer because they can't be older than 3 years old. He's basically saying if this happens, we're now in the trajectory of this end times prophecy stuff. What's crazy too, with each sacrifice, they always mix the ashes of the previous red heifers. When they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they also found a jar that had the previous 9 red heifers' ashes in it.
Weird.
Dating back to Moses.
That's from Ninjas with Butterflies. But all of those impossible things, finding the Red Sea Scrolls, finding that jar with the ashes from there's all these things that couldn't, this prophecy can't happen, this can't happen. This is just wacky myth. And then for that to all happen, it's like the Clintons having so many bodyguards die of heart attacks. It's very impossible. Mm-hmm. But like he was saying, it hadn't happened in so long for them to find one cow, to sacrifice. It's been thousands of years. And all of a sudden, they found 5. In the same place in Texas. Just me personally being in Texas, I don't know how it feels in the rest of the world, the rest of the country. But we're at war with the federal government. We're at war with the United States. We're at war for freedom. Texas is like this epicenter of so much. And then to have this happen, everything that's going on there, it's like we're connected to it. It's very odd thing for me. So then this is an update.
We have an update on the red heifer. They have built the altar on the Mount of Olives, and Hamas, one of the major reasons that they attacked Israel in October was because of the red heifers, because the Dome of the Rock sits on the Temple Mount right now, and by doing this sacrifice of the red heifers, it is an all-out threat of being we're going to get rid of the Dome of the Rock and rebuild the temple. The Muslims were just no way.
It's a whole different narrative.
What are the potential implications of this being enacted?
The Dome of the Rock is completely sacred to the Muslim faith.
Yep.
And if that's destroyed, you will not only have every Muslim nation, you'll have every Muslim in the world. Well, it'll be like the Battle of Armageddon, which talks about all the nations rising up against Israel. It's crazy that they literally have a sacrifice altar built. And they said it'll happen
recently built?
By the time this comes out, they could have already done it because they said it'll happen any day between now and Passover, which is in the end of April. So I say all that just to be just be ready for anything.
So that's happened this week. Whatever's going to go down needs to go down before Passover, before Easter. So we're here at the end. odd. Yeah, we jumped into this. We didn't do the France stuff yet, but I guess I'll hit that in a little bit. Texas growing popularity. I don't know. Would if Trump loses, I think that could be a big catalyst. It could be a big catalyst. Really supposed to be extinct. See, I mean, I'm an odds guy. I think there should be a government office paid for with tax money of really smart statisticians that whenever anything weird happens, the press or whoever can go to that and say, what are the odds of this? And they would say, this is literally impossible. This is not.
Wouldn't that work with Joe's new project?
My girlfriend's calling me.
Tell her she should be watching the show.
Yeah. She sent me a message. Hold on. Okay, send her a message. Yo, that is very weird. I didn't even know about the fish thing. Right. Not everyone believes in these prophecies, but it's still insane that these all happened. All these things happened. All these improbable, statistically impossible things have happened. Just the fish died. That's alone. The fact that the cows were born. And whether or not everyone believes it, there's billions of Muslims that do, and a lot of Jews that do, a lot of Zionists that do. But that's the thing, dude. It doesn't take us, or you or whoever to believe or not to believe. Just coincidences.
But there's a lot of misinformation about.
This is like putting your lawn. This is possible. This can happen statistically. You take your clothes out of the washer, put them in the dryer, and turn the dryer on. Statistically, could happen. You open up the dryer, and all the clothes are folded neatly and in a stack. Is that impossible? No. Is it statistically impossible? Yes. But could it statistically happen? Yes. This is what we're talking about. You can say, I don't believe if I put my clothes in the dryer, they're going to automatically be folded. It's not going to happen. Most likely you're right, but it's not impossible. And if it was if a dude said, hey, whenever you open the dryer and all your clothes are just magically folded, use the word magically, you're going to die the next day. You open that and you see, and that happened, you're going to be pretty worried about the next day. Astronomical, exactly. And it's hard to say.
Is that a chicken or an egg thing?
You believe in manifesting, but not in prophecy. That's a little, it's like, those people that really get on my nerves are like, I don't believe in God. And then you're like, angels. Oh, I believe in angels. Angels are great. It's like, I remember when I was a kid and Ronnie James Dio was talking about religion, stupid, there's no God, blah, blah. But then he was talking about like magic and the devil and stuff. I'm like, you just said that there wasn't any, but yeah. Okay.
So tell me what's going on with France.
I'm not done with this.
We're not done with
so if this happens though, if Muslims go to this, and Muslims also, their religion is different. Christians are pussies. We're pussies. We didn't used to be pussies. We used to be, Tate says this, and I 100% believe him, that when a religion loses its authority or fear, people have to fear a religion. That's one of the things that makes it happen, makes it work. Which you used to fear, going to hell. I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to hell. And then it changed to where everyone's fine. You can break whatever rules. It lost. And also, movies used to go to, the Baptist head of the Baptist head of the Catholic Church. is this okay? Is this too bad? And they'd be like, oh, we don't like this, tone this down. But they've lost all their authority. When it comes to Muslims, people are fear that religion. But also, the people in that religion care a lot more about symbolic things than Christians do. There's nothing I can think of that Christians would get pissed off and go to war if someone. I mean, people could attack the Vatican, and I don't think Catholics would go insane and try to kill someone. They would be like, "Oh, that's terrible." But when it comes to the Middle East, especially, and Muslims, there's certain things when they say, "Oh, that's a holy thing," that's like if you mess with it, they'll kill you. And this is that. So when we talk about those people going to war, and as you can see, whatever Israel says, we back them up 100%. Yeah. Okay, so so then Beck, I said he talked about it, did a story on it, and talked about kind of how the mainstream media didn't talk about it, hasn't talked about it, which I think is weird, is something to look at, why they're ignoring this when the leader of Hamas said, hey, this is a big reason. Now ask yourself this. This is stupid. It's cows. I don't believe in this prophecy. Whatever y'all are saying. If it was reported and it was talked about, and if when we go to negotiate and say, hey, you should do a ceasefire, hey, man, have a barbecue and don't sacrifice these cows. Then all of a sudden Hamas gives up. That's one of the main things. But it's not talked about because it would be ridiculous to over half the world that you're going to start a huge war and kill millions, if not billions of people in an apocalyptic war because of some cows. But if we don't talk about it, no one knows about it, then that point of view never gets across. Hey, that's silly. Don't do that. So I think it's interesting what is not being said is to look at that and how it's not reported.
Back in January, a story flew under the radar that is worth discussing, and it wasn't discussed because the mainstream media has no idea what this even means. But at the 100-day mark of the war in Israel, October 7th, the military spokesman for Hamas gave a televised speech about the Hamas efforts, as well as a reminder of the purpose of the war. Now, this was translated into English by the Palestinian Chronicle, which, gosh, I must have missed this issue of it, and it just came to my attention. But I want you to listen carefully to what this guy said. Quote, "We look back 100 days to remember the educated, the complicit, the incapacitated among the world powers governed by the law of the jungle, reminding them of an aggression that reached its peak against our path, Al-Quds and Al-Aqsa." Al-Quds is the Muslim name for Jerusalem, and Al-Aqsa is the mosque that is on top of the Temple Mount. Reminding them of an aggression that reached its peak against, translating in Jerusalem, and the Temple Mount, with the start of its actual temporal and spatial division. What? And he started to reach peak at the start of the Jews' actual temporal and spatial division, and, quoting, "the bringing of red cows as an application of a detestable religious myth designed for aggression against the feelings of an entire nation in the heart of its Arab identity and the path of its prophet and the ascension into heaven." Red heifers are the detestable religious myth, according to the leader of Hamas. A red heifer in the Old Testament, to be sacrificed, has to have no more than 2 black or white hairs. And they check them. I mean, I think there's probably, I'm guessing there's a rabbi squad that goes out and they look and they check the heifer. It has to be unblemished, all red hair. And that's a 1 in 50,000 chance that your red heifer is going to be born like that. And it cannot have more than 2 black or white hairs, even before having their ears tagged, a common practice with livestock that would disqualify them for ceremonial use. But these 4 heifers remain blemish-free. And according to the Temple Institute rabbis, they want to carry out this detestable, what did he call it, myth and a ceremony before Passover. So just before Easter. Only 9 heifers have been sacrificed since Moses. 9. And that happened between Moses and the year 70 A.D. And the feeling is, or the myth of the Bible, is the 10th red heifer ceremony would bring in the Messianic age. Now, I don't know about you, but those people who are like, I think Jesus is coming soon, they're so crazy. So I don't believe any of that craziness. But they bring in the Messianic age. Now, people who are religious Christians, they believe that that is the first step to rebuilding the third temple. And it has to be built before the Antichrist comes and desecrates it. Of course, I mean, he wouldn't desecrate it and then they'd build it. But then the Messiah comes. Some of us believe that's Jesus, and he had a return ticket when he came the first time. So he's coming again. Now, what does this mean? Where did this come from? Why is Hamas saying 100 days into the war it was the transfer of these red heifers from Texas to Israel that played a role in October 7th?
So, pretty insane, but that's happening now. So this thing with France, which France came out and Macron said something that was very aggressive, especially for France. He called America cowards, pussies. Called Germany, the rest of Europe, you're a bunch of cowards, a bunch of pussies. Got to take this fight to Russia. He's talking nuclear. He's talking crazy stuff. And I was like, why is France talking about this? Didn't take long. France has been fighting a war with Russia for a long time. Oh man, I wrote notes and everything. I didn't read them. Dang it. Okay, well, forget about the heifer stuff. Did I miss anything? Oh, whatever. Okay, so this is what France has done. There's empires and colonialism, and it's all frowned upon. France is pretty freaking smart. They started what's called neo-imperialism, which is they're still conquerors and colonialists and all that, but they're all behind the scenes. They have adopted what the U.S. has done with a weaponized dollar, with weaponized finances. But they've used that to control and own all of these countries in Africa and just take the resources, take everything. They've used their money to do it and their finance system. So that's where they've had their wealth, their imports, and then they export stuff to them cheaper. They prop up the governments, they own the governments. There's been like hundreds of millions of dollars sent to these rulers, really not leaders. That's all been happened and proven. Like one dude out of like 150 million, he built like 7 miles of roads, and the rest of it went to his pocket, to his family. So what has happened with these countries is that they have all had coups. These are all French. This got a Russian flag. That was actually French first. So
Okay.
the picture. But so these countries, all France, all controlled by France, resources all go to France. Blah blah blah. Now, when it comes to terrorism, because of how screwed up these countries are, because of the massive corruption, that France literally doesn't have to go and invade, but they have military bases there. That they say they're fighting ISIS and terrorism. But the number one country with the most deaths from terrorism, the most terrorists and terrorist actions against them, Burkina Faso, number one. Not the U.S., not all these other countries that are fighting terrorism. Burkina Faso, I think like 2,000 deaths from terrorism. Number two, I don't know. Number three is Mali. So these are just massive, massive dens for terrorism and terrorists, which causes unrest, which causes coups. Mm-hmm. All of these coups have happened, some of them more than one or two in the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. September 21, 22, 21, 23, 21. 23 is still going on, 21, and 23. All these coups are happening. All of the have happened. Governments have changed. Now, when these governments changed recently, they want to kick France out. They take control away, and France loses their hold, their neo-colonialism. So they no longer have, but they can go old colonialism. They have troops there. They have bases there. Mm-hmm. They have arms. It's not that big of a deal. But because of its neo-colonialism, they're not bad guys. They're not invaders. They're not occupiers. It's a real government that took over. So these are French troops. They've been there forever. They're fighting terrorism. Since they're legitimate governments, they can have other troops come in. And Russia has created an entire new army and used a lot of Wagner Group to create the Africa Corps. Why don't I read freaking... Okay, the Africa Corps. So they came in to partner with these governments and countries and stabilize. So now France has military bases, but Russia comes in and they're starting to set up military bases. They're moving troops in. So now Russia is actually becoming legitimate partners with a legitimate government. So France has to be like, oh no, we're taking over. We're going to, kick Russia out and we're going to kill the people in this country. And we're going to take over the country. They're not going to do that. Those days are long gone. Mm-hmm. So the only way to do it is to weaken Russia enough to have them pull out. So they've been fighting a proxy war using these governments and, terrorists, freedom fighters, whatever you want to call it, to fight the Russians all through.
Which is what Putin was saying the other day. He's like, they're mercenaries. They're paid.
What, France?
The people fighting. They're not.
Well, yeah, like, they're in Ukraine, but all this is connected because so they've actually named this the coup belt because it happens so often. But France has lost like all of their influence, but they've lost their money. Mm. And here's one of the big things. Is that it? Oh, that is it. The rest of it's just going to be explanation. So France, like I said, they get a lot of they get food, they get oil. But
that's where they were mining diamonds and using their children and all of that too, though, right?
I don't know. I don't know about the diamond thing, but I don't think France cares about the diamond. That's De Beers. De Beers has a hold on that. But France has the majority of their power. And if you've noticed all the problem with dependency on Russian gas and Germany and all this, France is not part of it. You know why? Because France is nuclear. They have 56 nuclear reactors. Think about how, like, most of Europe can fit in Texas alone.
Right.
Think of the size of France. Mm-hmm. This one small country by our standards.
Right.
56 nuclear reactors,
Wow.
18 nuclear power plants. Like over 65% of their power is nuclear. Now they need 8,000 tons of uranium every year. And you know who has this huge deposits of uranium? It is
Burkina Faso.
No, Nigeria, right above it.
Oh, okay.
They have all the uranium. So basically, they've run their country not just with money and other resources, but their whole base of power, of literal, electricity power comes
Wow.
from them taking from this country, which Africa's always been, where we go to rape the continent, basically.
Mhm.
So what else? Oil massively comes from there. Now Kazakhstan, former Russian Republic, they have tons of uranium, more uranium than anyone else. They provide 65%, no, 43% of the world's uranium, just as one country, where Borat comes from. So it's not like there's not more uranium, but France is this one small country. Niger only has they put out about 5 or 6% of the world's uranium. But 5 or 6% of the world's uranium, more than enough.
Goes all to France. Right.
More than enough for France. When they get first pick, they take it.
Right.
So France has been fighting this war and losing their authority and their power to Russia. Now, also, to turn this into kind of the crypto money thing, number one, you can see the banking system, the financial system of how they ruled these African countries and destroyed them and sent them into chaos. But Russia is coming in and basically saying, "Hey, have you heard of the BRICS? What we're making this new currency. We can use your gold, your diamonds, your oil, your uranium to help back this. We'll welcome you in."
So they're going to protect those smaller countries.
Exactly.
By giving them like a safe haven for their resources.
And I've been talking to you for months now about how these little African countries have grown huge balls when it comes to these like international meetings. They're standing up to France. They're standing up, and they're literally saying, "Oh, by the way, we're joining the BRICS nations. What you gonna do?" It's been really crazy, and I didn't have the full picture until I looked into this of where these small African nations are getting this authority from and getting this backbone from. But this is where it's coming from, and the world is changing. We always talk about this fall as dollars falling off, but this is a big part of it, and I think France can see it. France knows it, and that is one reason why they're pushing towards even a nuclear war. Is because of this.
Wild.
It is wild. I was gonna say if you had any like comments or stuff on it, but it's wild.
No, I've been waiting for it. I'm ready for it.
But I think that we're gonna have to. And is the BRICS idea better or worse? It's still, government money is still fiat, but the fact that it's backed by something, there's a lot of things you can't argue with that are. It's a better system than just violence.
It feels like it's a pathway to give the power back to the people, or one step. It may fail, but it is breaking from the central banking.
And also, I think what you're saying, it makes people think different. Like, why did I even care about this green money?
Right. Wait, what does have value? And we're going to back it with
this has 20 tons of diamonds behind it.
Resources. And it makes their country be valuable, makes them value their country's resources and start thinking about it, engage their brain. So I love it.
Where you don't need a protector of the U.S. or whoever. You have a part.
And who owns the country's resources? Not the government. We, the people.
Well, in the U.S., but some places the government owns everything.
No.
This is the good news, which I think you'll like. So I know a lot of y'all are chemtrails and all of the conspiracies with them. Tennessee is actually the first state to now have a bill to ban and make chemtrails illegal.
Awesome.
Which is pretty cool. This is from Johnny B. He just talked about this because he's in Tennessee. I didn't know that this is even not illegal. How could this not be illegal? But
So the idea is this: chemtrails. You know that. And before you dismiss, at least stay with me a second. Chemtrails. You know, when you see planes going over, dumping the water, dumping the contrails, or dumping chemicals. We don't know for certain, but it's interesting, and there's a lot of conspiracy theories over the decades on this one, is that they are seeding the atmosphere or doing mind control or doing any sort of weather modification. So Tennessee, the state Senate, this is Senate Bill 2691. The Senate passed that bill. It's now got to go to the House. So the bill's not law yet. It's got to go to the House. Amendment number 1 is a rewriting. This is what they worked on last week, to prohibit the intentional injection, release, or dispersion by any means of chemicals, chemical compounds, substances, or apparatus within the borders of this state into the atmosphere with the express purpose of affecting temperature, weather, or the intensity of sunlight. It's geoengineering. And, you know, even if you don't wear a tinfoil hat, which I do wear a tinfoil hat in a lot of ways, like my alien stuff is, I'm working on that. Doing research on that. I think it's interesting. But even if you're not a big contrail person, I know a lot of y'all are not, research says, it was a study not that long ago, said that 17% of Americans believe 100% that the government tries to affect our weather. I do know this, there's some weather seeding research that's been done, but some folks testified in Nashville, and there's actually one from Johnson City, and this bill is all from East Tennessee. The sponsors are from East Tennessee, and they passed it. Now, here's the reason I pressed record, because even if you're not a contrails person, what's interesting, side note, what's interesting is if the wording of this bill, and it does pass, it actually lowers emissions. Like, this bill within itself lowers carbon dioxide emissions. Yes, I know globalism, I get all of that, it's a scam, but if they want to play the carbon dioxide game, this bill makes carbon dioxide go down a little bit, or at least less emissions. Now, here's the reason I pressed record. Watch the verbiage and that's what got my attention. The aggression of the MSM coming after these folks. And even on Reddit this weekend, people were just, ha, ha, ha. Can you believe those hillbillies in Tennessee? They believe anything they read, and ha, ha, ha. They think they're doing something by passing this bill. Like, why are they that aggressive against this? All the bill does is just say, hey, you can't dump chemicals into our atmosphere. That's it. Why? That's what got my attention. Why are they this aggressive? Because it puts less crap into our atmosphere. Why? Now we're having a conversation. So for me, I think it's worth paying attention to. Tennessee is the first. Will your state follow? Let me know down below what you think.
So I thought that was like we were talking about with the heifer thing. Why are they not talking about it? Why are they going after this so aggressively? And it is. Have you, with any law, have you ever seen something so basic, so clear? It's
well, Tennessee also just passed a thing to protect writers and singers, but I think maybe all of us, and protect our IP. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of good stuff going on with.
I think it's pretty interesting, and I think it's cool that how, like with Texas, maybe this is the start of, hey, the federal government's not doing what they're supposed to do. They're allowing this to happen. They're allowing people to dump, toxins into the air. I've seen so many like independent stuff in California where people like, hey, there was all these chemtrails, and now we found all these metals in the grass and the water.
Yeah, I've seen where they are able to light their snow on fire, and
they're like, hey man, shut up. Did you see anyone do it? It's like, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So to see states starting to stand up and say, hey, that's illegal in our state. And if every state does it, what do you need a federal government for? If they're not literally just protecting you, and if your state's going to have to do it, then screw it. And I think that's going to be something that pushes the federal government to start doing their job.
Good.
Because they're like,
That's the
hey man,
pathway forward.
people are going to see that they don't need us if we don't. After we got to go because you're wanting to
Yeah,
head out.
Charlie's texting me because Uncle Cliff's on. So
Okay. Well, I love you.
I love you too. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, you guys. Please give us a like and share. There's a link in my video. The very first link are tickets to the Team Mighty event. We are going to be having a happy hour meetup the night before here. So you'll have like a Friday night and a Saturday event if you can make it on April 19th and 20th.
All right. Y'all take care.
Bye.
I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed,